Hello, everyone. This is Crystal from DFI. I'm glad to be here again to talk about how DFI becomes Ubuntu's good friend. As you know, Ubuntu is the most popular Linux distribution, and it is published by Canonical, a UK company. DFI and Canonical have signed the Ubuntu IoT Hardware Certification Partner Program on February 25th this year, 2021. The program shows DFI's determination to have deep cooperation with Canonical and then give our customers the best support on Ubuntu. You may want to know why the DFI hardware needs to be certified by Ubuntu and what benefits of the program. Let me introduce Tony Zhang, General Manager of Canonical Taiwan. Tony had rich experience across IoT industrials. He helped Canonical providing complete end-to-end solution from IoT devices to the cloud and assist enterprises like DFI in becoming easily access to open source technology. It's our pleasure to have Tony himself to give us the insights into how Canonical Ubuntu's certified IoT hardware enhance the application flexibility of DFI products and reduce software and hardware development time. Let's welcome Tony.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for listening into this call, and thank you to our partner DFI for giving us the opportunity to share some of the cooperations that we are doing and the value that we are providing to you, all of you. So today, I'm going to talk about a few things. One is who's Canonical and what we do. And the other one is the value that we bring when using Ubuntu. And the third one is the goal of our cooperations, why we are working with DFI, and fourth, right? What does that mean, right? What is Ubuntu certified hardware, and then what value that brings to the table? And finally, just give you guys some brief ideas on the SKUs or the versions that we have on Ubuntu. So a little bit about Canonical. So a lot of people sometimes don't know who we are. So Canonical is a British-based registered in Ireland company that publish Ubuntu. We have offices across the globe and a main operation in Taipei as well. And we have employees across 30 different plus countries. And 70% of our employees work from home. So we are very remote and cope with COVID very well. So besides Ubuntu, which is a well-known operating system that a lot of people are using, we also provide a vast variety of other products. And the products that we provide are mainly accessible and free to download from our website. And the focus of our product has always been automations, reduce the frictions, and make ease of use of the open source products that's available. So the screens that you can see that we have quite a bit of products that for you guys to make sure and try it out. And mainly today, I'm just going to talk about what Ubuntu is. So what is Ubuntu, right? So a lot of people probably know this by, Ubuntu is a version of Linux, right? A distro of Linux that's available. And but the goal that we are trying to achieve with Ubuntu is that make sure that Linux can become easy, fast, and secure. So there are a lot of organizations out there publishing different varieties, favorites of Linux, and it has always been that not very well maintained, right, and not very easy to use. So at 2004, we our founder, right, set out a mission to try to make it as easy to use, as secure to use as possible. And right now, after 15 or so years, what we have accomplished is that Ubuntu has become, I think, the most popular desktop Linux available today. That we have maybe 20, 30 million users, and it's very popular in the cloud as well, right? It's the most popular operating system in the cloud. And right now we are focusing on extending our reach over to the industrial IoTs and retail IoT type of space. And now, different from other vendors, right? Ubuntu is freely available. You can download it from the internet and you can use it for personal use or for your enterprise, for company organizations. And as long as you are not selling it, so we don't mind you using it. And how we differentiate ourselves is from our other distros or competitors or whatever you call them, is that Ubuntu usually enroll in very latest Linux kernel, and all the user space are incorporating with all the latest applications or technologies. So it's sort of, over the last 15 years, it's sort of become the de facto platform for open source innovations. So that's a little bit about Ubuntu. And next, I want to go into talk about a little bit about open source software. So Linux being, a major part of open source software foundations, we need to look at what open source software is and what kind of impact it has to the ecosystems and to enterprises, right? So first thing that comes into people's mind is open source is free, right? And it is true that all of them are pretty much free. And the free goes beyond just free of charge, right? That you don't have to pay for it, but it's also provide you a lot of freedoms of modifying it, changing it to the way that you want, right? So it's in that way, it becomes very powerful, right? Because you have talent across the globe that are contributing to this software, making it very feature rich and evolving very fast. And when you take that and then put into your own use, right, to your enterprise or to your company or to your whatever organizations that you are in, then you can own that total control. You can have it the way that you want it. You can modify it and use it the way that you want it, right? And that's pretty much the high level positive points about open source software. But with that, it comes negative consequences as well, right? A few key points like the changes on the open source software are very rapid, right? It can get updates a few times a week, right? And the upgrades are usually a couple weeks. There's a new version available. And also by having a lot of people contributing to a project, to that software, the software sometimes it's not being well tested. So there are a lot of bug fixes right from everywhere. And the consequences of this is that the software itself or the technology itself is not very well documented, right? Because the changing are so rapid, the documentations are usually lagging behind, and this brings the impact to enterprise that are not software focused, meaning that a lot of traditional companies that are focusing on mining or retailing or whatever, right? Medicals, they don't have the type of talent or the pools that are available to look into a piece of key technology from open source and learn how to use it and bring this technology into their production environments. So other than that, right, taking a version that's changing rapidly with a lot of fixes, And for enterprise to maintain that, it's very difficult, right? And when you have open source, when you have a platform, things that you have hundreds of thousands to even, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that's changing it all the time, right? Then trying to maintain that becomes very tricky, right? For any enterprise. And other consequences of this is that, when you are changing and modifying a piece of technology, right? Sometimes there are security loopholes that you are not aware of, and then it gets fixed. It needs to get fixed right away. So Canonical exists because we are trying to reduce all of this, right? All the negative points of open source, we are trying to eliminating or reduce all those tedious, difficult efforts, so that allowing typical or ordinary enterprise that are not software companies able to leverage all these technology globally. So that's why Canonical exists, and that's why Ubuntu exists. So just to give you guys a glimpse of what we have to do to maintain a version of operating system, right? A version of Ubuntu. So on the left side, you can see the graph, which has different colors of bars. Each color represent a version of long-term support Ubuntu that's available. And on top of that bar, you can see a number associated with it. These are the number of security fixes that we release per year on a yearly basis. And these usual security bases are called common vulnerability and exposures. So, as you can see, over a year, we typically would push about 1,300 to 1,200 type of range of patches or fixes into our any version of our operating systems. And this is not a surprisingly big number, right? So if you look at Windows and iOS, they probably have a similar type of fixes that they have to maintain. The differences is that Linux is built a little bit different than, quite different from Windows or Mac OS. They are all proprietaries, so meaning that they have full controls to the entire operating systems, that they can manage the hardware compatibilities. But with Linux, it's a very difficult situations, and which I want to talk about later in my slides. So with open source softwares and with Linux, there are two choices that you can make to grasp the power, right? One is you can grab the source code from Linux foundations and consolidate different features and functions from the application, open source application side, and build your own version of Linux operating system. And that way you have total control. You can maintain it with a relatively large group of team people. You can implementing other things and then try to use that as your own version. Some companies that's large enough does have this type of approach, right? Google, for example, Microsoft, for example, they do maintain their own version of Linux. But for other companies that trying to leverage the feature sets or the power of Linux, and then you can have two choices. You can buy from one of our competitors, meaning that you can subscribe to their service and pay an annually basis, or you can use Ubuntu. Ubuntu is it's a commercial version, so it's well maintained, and then it's free available for access, and we allow you to have options to buy or not to buy, right? Depends on whether you need those extra features and support. So that's where we are in terms of the product. And next slides, I want to talk about the impact that Ubuntu and Linux is having in the open source community and in the entire software ecosystems, right? Starting from last 5 years, the entire software ecosystem or economy has switching from proprietary software to open source softwares. So right now, there are at least $50 million, at least 50 million open source projects online that's available, and with 50 million type of different technology that people are using. And a lot of key technology are driven by large influential software tech companies, right? Like Amazon's, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. And they release these projects as open source software so that they can get people to enhance and contribute to the technology that they need to use. And this brings a positive reinforcement for themselves, right? So they can take those technology and bring it inside with enough people to maintain and to support, to create an own version of theirs so they can use. A very simple example that everybody should be aware of, should be using, is Chrome and Chromium, right? Chromium is the open source project for Google, the browsers, and Chrome is their proprietary version of Chromiums. And so Chrome is so advanced now; it's got a lot of features that people are using, right? So this is a positive loop, and with this positive loop, what the role that Linux play is that pretty much they build based on a powerful operating system that's open and secure. So a lot of them, around maybe 80–90% of them, are using Ubuntu as the OS platform. So that's the ecosystem lifecycle that we are seeing today. And this also brings a little bit of negative impact to ordinary enterprises, right? Because for ordinary enterprise, whom does not have 2,000–3,000 software engineers to maintain or operate their own open source softwares, this brings a technology gap. And that's where we come in, right? As at Canonical, we are trying very hard to reduce those gaps, right? We bring the key technology into the table and allow typical enterprise that are not software companies to be able to use key technologies, stuff like OpenStack, Kubernetes, TensorFlow, and et cetera, right? So that's where we are, right? So with all these in mind, right, next I want to talk about then why we are cooperating with DFI and what we are cooperating with. So when you download a typical Ubuntu version and you try to install on a piece of hardware, right? The scenario is when we build that, right? We are trying to target as much hardware as possible in a very generic, trivial, non-specific type of ways. So usually what happens is, right, when you install this on a piece of board, when you install the operating system on a piece of board, a few things, drawbacks or failures will happen, right? Some hardware features are missing, or it doesn't boot, right? Some software applications doesn't run. And when you need to find help, there's no help, right? You don't know who to call. You have to go find to the community and wait for the answer, somebody to answer that questions that you have. And the system that you install might be a little bit shaky, right? It's not very stable. And sometimes when you do an update or security fix, it breaks, right? These are the typical things that we see when you take any piece of hardware and then you try to install that. When you try to install Ubuntu on top of it, right? And with the cooperation with DFI, we are trying to reduce or eliminate this type of user experiences, right? We're trying to make sure that you can start using Ubuntu on a piece of hardware as easy as possible. And in also, right, with the cooperation, we are trying to make sure that the piece of hardware and the software that you purchase, it's always secure, meaning that you can take any updates and any patches that's released by us, and then put that in, and the hardware remains high performance, reliable, and still perform as well as it should be. And then when those things fail, right, when there's a problem, you can call us and it gets sorted out, right? It gets fixed. So these are the things that what we are trying to achieve. And this is what we call Ubuntu certified hardware. Okay. And the goal, right? I don't want to repeat myself, but the goal is that when we do hardware certifications, we want to make sure that Ubuntu works well, fits Canonical's quality standard, and performs the way that the hardware is designed to be, and the OS can work on top of that, right? And in addition to that, the second thing that we are trying to make sure is that this version of the hardware software combination can be maintained, right? Can receive all the tri-weekly patches that we release, and the hardware drivers and all the firmware supports are included in that piece of kit. So that's the main goal. All right. So what is it, right? What we are doing? So as you can see previously, that these are simple samples of any piece of hardware that should have some kind of I/O interfaces or peripherals that it's available on a piece of hardware. And when you have that, right, what we do with DFI is we first install the operating system on top of this device, and then we perform hundreds of tests to make sure that first it meets all the functionalities, right? It works as it's supposed to be designed to work for, and on top of that, then, right, and it is it's very stable, right? You can boot it 30 times. You can put on and off 30 times. You know, you can do something 50 times and it doesn't break, right? And adding to that is it has the right performance level that it should be, right? And it provides you the most positive experience that's possible. And very finally is that this system is upgradable, right? It can be fixes. You can receive fixes and patches, and then they will still work. So these are the 4 key main issues that we address during the first phase of this hardware certification, what we call the hardware enablement phases. And after that, after we make sure that everything works, DFI, we work with DFI and DFI work with us to fix all the issues and problems. Then we bring in the device into Canonical certification lab. So in the certification lab, the devices are tested every 3 weeks, and make sure that all the patches and the fixes and the bug fixes and security breaches are able to run on this particular hardware. And I think we are the 1 or 2 only companies globally that's doing this thing. The other company that we know trying to make sure that their product meets the this type of quality is Google. Google has also very large lab somewhere in different region of the globe, and they do their own testings on most of their mobile phone and their partners' mobile phones. So these are the cycle that we do, right? We bring in the patches into the OS, and then we start testing all the test cases that we used to have, and make sure that there's no new bug. And if there's a new bug, we call regression. We will fix those bugs and make sure that the bugs are fixed before the patch or the software updates are released in the field to the end customer, to the production environments. So these are the 2 things that we are doing with our partners like DFI. And again, right, bring back to this slide is all what we are doing is trying to make sure that we are the entire platform, including the hardware and the software, is secure, reliable, fast, and well supported. So that's what Ubuntu certification is, and that's the program that we are rolling out with DFI. And you can see from our website or their websites that we're bringing more and more devices to the market that are ready to go, that are certified, pre-installed, everything runs, everything works well, and all the upgrades and updates can be remotely accessed and ready to go. And finally, right, with certifications, we will bring the all the Ubuntu versions available for that platform, right? So For that platforms, then you can choose it to use the IoT version, which is the core version, or you can, if the desktop version is available, meaning that there's a panel to it and you want to run it, that might be, usually should be okay. And the server part is also available, right? So with certifications, you get access to all the SKUs that's available to that platforms. So a little bit about the platforms, right? Right now we are publishing 3 different type of flavors of Ubuntu. You can get the Ubuntu desktop, usually are used by notebook, right? PCs. Ubuntu server usually are using by IoT environments or data center environments, and Core, which is 100% being used by IoT use cases at the production environments. So with that, I want to conclude my presentation for the day, and please contact us for any questions and comments that you have.
Thank you, Tony, for your sharing. Next, I will introduce what hardware has been certified by Ubuntu in DFI. For now, we have 3 models plus the certifications. The first one is EC78-KU. It's a fanless embedded system based on Intel Core processor. The second one is GHF51, the world's first 1.8-inch ultra mini industrial motherboard equipped with the AMD Ryzen R1000 processor. And the third one, EC98-GH, is the fanless embedded system based on the GHF51 with the nice-looking enclosure and a good thermal solution. Let me have the short introduction on the EC78-KU. It's a compact embedded system with a lunchbox size. So it is widely implemented in the space-limited equipment like autonomous patrolling, gate control in parking lots, and also ticket vending machine or AGV. With the Ubuntu certified, it is risk-free to update patches for the security enhancement and also application upgrade. Many Ubuntu developers use Raspberry Pi to make prototype, but they have no long life support and might not sustain in some critical environments. DFI released an AMD-based low-power SBC GHF51 for the makers to prototype the solutions for the embedded market, which makes high reliability and longevity. The GH551 is the same size as the Raspberry Pi in 1.8-inch size, similar to the name card. In the small size, it supports a bundle of IOs like dual micro HDMI and DIO, USB 3.1, and also 1 mini PCI slot for expansion. It's the world's smallest and cost-effective IoT board solution. With the certification of Ubuntu, your AIoT implementations like face recognition and traffic management could be risk-free to have frequent training model updates. Again, the Ubuntu certified hardware is secured, ultra reliable, faster, cheaper, and well supported. This is the end of my presentation. If you have any question, please type your question in the chat room or email to us. And please give us your feedback via scanning the QR code and complete the survey. You will have a chance to win one of an iTunes Apple cards. Thank you for listening. This is all of today. Thank you for your listening. Hello, Tony. Are you there?
Yes. So I want to thank again the opportunity that DFI gave it to us. I want to thank all of you for listening in. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.